Before they were famous, these 20 famous American actors and celebrities were serving our country. From Drew Carey's Marine Corps to the surprising military pasts of Hollywood's biggest stars, here are the famous Tinseltown celebs who served in the military. Many fans recognize his signature look, but few know the reason behind it. Drew Carey's high and tight haircut is a direct nod to his time as a military man. Long before hosting The Price is Right or starring in his own sitcom, the comedian served 6 years in the United States Marine Corps Reserve. Before he was the iconic voice of Darth Vader, the late James Earl Jones was a soldier in the United States Army. Serving as an ROTC cadet and later during the Korean War in the early 1950s, he often credited the rigorous discipline of taking orders with preparing him for the demands of Hollywood. Before he was too legit to quit, MC Hammer was serving in the United States Navy. The rap icon served as a petty officer for 3 years before receiving an honorable discharge, paving the way for the parachute pants and high-energy moves that would take over the world. Before menacing audiences as Kylo Ren in Star Wars: The Force Awakens, Adam Driver was serving in the United States Marine Corps. The actor spent nearly 3 years as a Marine before a medical discharge, where he developed the trademark intensity that would later define his villainous film career. Before he was delivering roundhouse kicks as Walker, Texas Ranger, Chuck Norris was serving as a military policeman in the United States Air Force. Enlisting in 1958, Norris served for 4 years, and it was during a stint in South Korea that he first discovered the passion for judo that would launch his legendary martial arts career. Long before he was interviewing guests on daytime television, Montel Williams was serving his country. The future host spent 15 years between the Marines and Navy, working his way up to lieutenant commander before leaving the service for his talk show debut in the early 1990s. Before he was sporting Hawaiian shirts in Magnum PI or a police commissioner's badge in Blue Bloods, Tom Selleck was serving in the California National Guard. The famously mustachioed actor spent 6 years in the 161st Infantry Regiment from 1967 to 1973, rising to the rank of sergeant while balancing early commercial and TV roles before acting became his full-time career. Before he was a 1990s comedy icon, Sinbad was a boom operator aboard KC-135 Stratotankers in the United States Air Force, assigned to the 384th Air Refueling Wing at McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita, Kansas. He'd often sneak downtown to perform stand-up, even competing in the Air Force's 1981 talent contest, before an eventual discharge for, in his words, parking my car in the wrong position. It wasn't him on the counter, the sofa, or the bathroom floor, but it definitely was Shaggy in the United States Marine Corps. Before he was topping charts with "It Wasn't Me," the Jamaican-American singer served as a lance corporal and artilleryman during the Persian Gulf War, even developing his signature toasting voice by mocking his drill instructors. Oliver Stone's unflinching look at the brutality of war in films like Platoon and Born on the 4th of July isn't just direction, it's memory. Before his Hollywood career, Stone served in the United States Army during the Vietnam War, spending over a year in combat and earning a Purple Heart after being wounded twice in action. Long before he was an EGOT-winning comedy legend, Mel Brooks was a combat engineer in the U.S. Army during World War II. Drafted just 1 year into college, Brooks served with the 1104th Engineer Combat Battalion, helping clear landmines and booby traps as the Allies advanced into Germany before being honorably discharged as a corporal. And yes, Mel Brooks is still alive and kickin'. He is currently 99 years old. Before he was raising an eyebrow as the iconic Mr. Spock on the bridge of the Enterprise, Leonard Nimoy was raising his hand for the United States Army Reserve. The late Star Trek legend served from 1953 to 1955, working his way up to the rank of sergeant, while putting his performance skills to use in the Army's Special Services Division. Long before iconic roles in Bullet and The Great Escape, Steve McQueen was learning discipline in the U.S. Marine Corps. The late Hollywood legend enlisted at 17, and despite going AWOL early on, he redeemed himself by saving 5 Marines from drowning in the Arctic Ocean, earning a spot on the Presidential Yacht's Honor Guard before his honorable discharge in 1950. Long before I Walk the Line made him a household name, Johnny Cash was walking the line for the United States Air Force. The late country icon served from 1950 to 1954, working as a radio intercept operator in Landsberg, Germany, even becoming the first American to learn of Joseph Stalin's death through an intercepted Soviet message, before his honorable discharge as a staff sergeant launched his music career. Long before those piercing blue eyes graced the silver screen and his name appeared on salad dressing bottles, Paul Newman was serving his country in the Navy during World War II. The late actor spent his military service as a radioman and gunner in the Pacific, stationed in Hawaii and Japan, before his honorable discharge in 1946 paved the way for college and an iconic career. Before he was making audiences laugh in Willy Wonka and Blazing Saddles, the late Gene Wilder was serving in the United States Army. Drafted in 1956, he spent 2 years in the medical corps as a paramedic at Valley Forge Army Hospital, where his observations of patients with mental disorders would later influence his quirky portrayal of the eccentric Willy Wonka. Randy Couture's legendary MMA career didn't begin in the octagon. It began in Army Green. The future UFC Hall of Famer spent 6 years in the 101st Airborne Division, working his way up to sergeant before his honorable discharge in 1988, crediting his time in uniform with teaching him he could compete at an international level. Long before he was leading the Grateful Dead through the psychedelic 1960s, Jerry Garcia was leading a very different life in the Army. The late guitarist's mother enlisted him in 1960 after he stole her car, but his military career lasted less than a year. He was discharged after accruing multiple AWOL charges, proving even then that the counterculture life was his true calling. Long before he was a household name selling over 50 million records, the late Tony Bennett was a young soldier witnessing the horrors of war firsthand. The 96-year-old crooner served in the U.S. Army at the tail end of World War II, where his regiment liberated the Kaufering concentration camp in April 1945, an experience he later called a nightmare that's permanent, and one that made him a lifelong pacifist. Before he was a Grammy-winning rapper and longtime fixture on Law & Order SVU, Ice-T was serving in the United States Army. Enlisting in 1979 following the birth of his first child, he spent 4 years in the 25th Infantry Division, including a stint as a squad leader at Schofield Barracks in Hawaii, before earning an honorable discharge and dedicating himself fully to his music career. The Golden Girls thanked her for being a friend, but you can also thank the late Bea Arthur for being one of the few female celebs who served their country. Before she was Dorothy Zbornak, Arthur enlisted in the Marine Corps Women's Reserve in 1943, just 5 days after women were allowed to join, driving trucks and typing memos for nearly 3 years before receiving an honorable discharge as a staff sergeant in September 1945. Before he built a publishing empire and became an icon of the sexual revolution, the late Hugh Hefner was an army man serving his country. Following his high school graduation in 1944, Hefner enlisted and served as a writer for military newspapers. a 2-year stint that gave him the editorial experience he would later leverage to launch Playboy magazine from his kitchen table in 1953. Before he was the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley was a soldier in the United States Army, and one of the rare celebrities who served after achieving fame. Drafted in 1958 following chart-topping hits like Hound Dog and Jailhouse Rock, the late icon spent 2 years in uniform, serving in Germany where he met 14-year-old Priscilla Beaulieu, who would later become his wife. 20 celebrities, 20 incredible stories of service before stardom. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more. And if we missed your favorite celebrity veteran, drop their name in the comments. We might feature them in a future video. Till next time.